All right, Grasshoppers, this is a rare treat. Usually we have a couple of podcasts in the morning, a couple of boring guys. But we have Corey Hirsch. We've had him on here before, former National Hockey League player, former New York Ranger, does a lot of TV work now. Corey is a fantastic human being. Him and I did not play together. We got to know each other through alumni events and have become very close. I totally admire him. Corey has suffered through his own mental health issues, has that under control, and is a huge advocate for other people with mental health and mental health issues in general. So, dude, what's happening?
Oh, hey, Tommy, it's always good to see you, but I did bring something today for you because I know that this is probably the only thing that makes me better than you.
Okay, let's see it. Let's see it.
Gold medal. This is my Olympic medal, right? So,
nice.
Yeah, we had to bring it. Right? It's the only thing, and it's not gold. Yes, I know that. Okay,
nice.
Tommy, I know you're going to rip on me for that. But yes, I do have a silver medal from the Olympics, and you do not. So that's the only thing I have on you. I've never been on Survivor, nor have I ever had a fight in Madison Square Garden. So
okay, all right.
That's one side. But yeah, no, so much is going on. Got a podcast out, Players Tribune called Blindsided, up for an award. The Webbies. It's supposedly like the Grammys or the Oscars of internet awards. We're up against ESPN and the Kobe podcast, so it might be tough to win, but we're hanging in there, and it's pretty cool to be nominated in our first year. It's and as you know, we've talked about it, but I'll tell your crew and your audience, it's a podcast where it's elite athletes, professional athletes that have gone through things, and we all have earlier in our career. Everything's rolling along. We're supposed to play in the NHL or NFL or whatever forever, and life gets in the way. Something can hit you really hard, and whether it's mental health or family or whatever it is, something personal that these athletes have gone through, it could be tragedy, whatever, but have learned to deal with it and have now come out the other side. And I've always felt that people look up to professional athletes, and if we can show that, hey, stuff happens to everybody, and that if they can go get help and be better on the other side, then absolutely go do it.
What's the name of the podcast again?
It's called Blindsided. You can find it anywhere: Spotify, your Apple Podcasts, anything. I do it with the Dr. Diane McIntosh, who's a she's a doctor, psychiatry, and she's incredible. We've had Kurt Warner on, Bubba Watson, Kevin Love, had Paul Bizanet on, and like I said, Bubba Watson, Kevin Love had a panic attack in front of 20,000 people during the middle of a basketball game. Right. So he came on, talked about that, talked about his depression, talked about, how he deals with that stuff. And like I said, it's to normalize the conversation and let people know, hey, especially as men, Tommy, like, we've talked about this many times, like our middle-aged men and our crisis with men is we're just supposed to not have anything like that happen to us. We're just supposed to suck it up and just, deal with it ourselves. Well, I'm trying to normalize the conversation, and you having me on today again just helps me do it, and I really appreciate it. And we'd have you on, Tommy, but you're too messed up for us. Like
exactly.
we have really messed up, and then it's nobody.
People think that all the time. It's like I meet people and they say, "You get up at 3:30 in the morning every day, every day." Yes, every day. That is great.
No, there's no level of messed up. We are all a little crazy, especially us old goalies.
Well, don't you think it's good to be a little bit crazy? You're going for it. If you're just normal and you don't try anything new or whatever like that. I tell stories about my life. Like I tell stories. Well, you talk about the Olympic thing, and I tell a story all the time. And I reviewed this in my book that hopefully will be done pretty soon, where I was trying out for the 1980 Olympic team for Canada. And the Saddle Dome had not been built yet. They had the Calgary Corral there in Calgary, and they didn't have a whole lot of money. So we came into the summer before the Olympics and didn't have a lot of money. So we had construction trailers in the parking lot, and that's where we were staying. So I thought the first day it would be a real brilliant bonding mission to go out with a couple of guys and have several adult beverages. So about 2 or 3 in the morning, came back to the construction trailer. Then we decided it'd be a good idea to take the furniture outside of the TV room, and put it outside on the trainer's car. Then they went to bed, and then I decided it'd be brilliant to wake the trainer up and tell we did it. Looking back, and seriously, I remember thinking at the time, this is great. This is a bonding thing. It'll bring everybody together. This is great. Father Bauer, as you know, used to run Hockey Canada many, many years ago. So in the morning, he comes walking over to me. We're outside the construction trailer, ready to go over to the rink. And I'm thinking he's going to come over and hug me. Like, this, Tom, you're so funny. This is great. Hand me a ticket and sent me home. I got cut from the team. So that's my Olympic
Lesson
experience.
learned. Hey, I'm from Calgary. I know what the Calgary Corral was like. So
Yeah.
it's what a beautiful place. Oh my God, yeah, we'll get the stories out for sure, no question. I mean, I have a few too, of course. But
tell me a little bit about the podcast. Is what, like 140,000 you're up against, or 14,000? What was the numbers?
Yeah, so I think there's been about 14,000. Well, there's about 14,000 entrants, but they narrowed it down to the top 5. And it's myself. There's an ESPN pod. There's Kobe Bryant. There's one called The Whistleblower. And there's another one. There's 5. But if you go to the Webby Awards, .com and you go there and go to the sports section. You'll have to go through search, go to sports, or just search Blindsided. Right. It'll be on there. And because there's all sorts of different categories.
And who votes on this?
What's that?
Who votes on this?
It just now goes to the public vote. Oh. So they narrowed it down to our 5, right? The podcast, the top 5. The vote now goes to the people.
Right.
So, and then, that's where we need some help. We need people to vote.
So people can go to the Webby Awards, look it up.
Yeah, just look up Blindsided in the search box. Click on that or the sports section of the awards, Best Sports Podcast, and it'll be in there. Yeah. So, and like I said, we need help. So I think we're sitting in 3rd place right now. Vote ends April 21st.
Okay.
So, I mean, it'd be really cool in our first year. And really, Tommy, the whole idea isn't to win. This has been nice, but the whole idea, and I've talked to you many times about it, it's to try and help people, right? It's just to try to normalize the conversation and have people look and go, hey, if that can happen to Kevin Love or Bubba Watson and it's happening to me and I can go get the help and it's okay and it doesn't make me any less of a person or any weaker of a person, then it's great. And again, to reiterate, we set out to try and make a difference and make an impact in mental health across the world. Players Tribune stepped up in a huge way, and the reason we've kind of done it this way is because we can reach more people. An award would just be icing on the cake, but ultimately, Tommy, like you and I believe, when you help other people, things come back to you tenfold. It really does, right?
I had a conversation with somebody the other day. Kind of got philosophical and talking about how I am now compared to what I was back even when I played, or even 5-10 years ago. And I said, listen, I just feel so much better about myself because I have learned just what you're talking about, right? By helping other people more, you get much more out of life. You feel better about yourself.
Yeah, and it's a great place to be. You wake up happy. You wake up, hey, who can I help today? What can I do? And when I used to help people too, it was always, okay, well, there was always a little bit of, okay, well, maybe, okay, now what do you, it's not like that though. It's all just, I'm going to help somebody and I'm going to leave it there. And it's you get things back in different ways, but then the more I get back, the more I can give back out too. So it's a really cool, when you learn that. Everyone's looking for the meaning of life, and we can get really philosophical here or whatever. And I mean, for me, it's been just helping people. That's really all the answer was, connecting with other people. And as an NHL player, like, it's all about us, right? Like, remember your pregame and your game, and I had to play well, or the fans are right. It's all about you. And then after the game, you're going, okay, who's going to hire me? Who's going to give you? Who's going to, right? And nobody cares where Tommy Laidlaw or Corey Hirschauer wants to retire. And what you learn about is that, you have to find another passion. And a passion for me is just trying to make a difference in the world, like you do, Tommy. I mean, it's the same. It's the same for you. I've seen some of your stuff, your motivational stuff. It's incredible. Where have you been speaking lately, too? Have you been doing
I've been doing a lot of MC. We had a charity event. The Rangers had a charity event, or was connection with the Rangers for the Ronald McDonald House down at Chelsea Piers down the city. It was Skate with the Greats, they called it. And they have it every year. So they had me be the MC the last couple of times. I do a lot of speaking in front of schools and boards. A guy down in Virginia Beach, former Navy. I think he's a big guy in the Navy. He's got a panel doing similar stuff that you're doing. Coaches a lot of hockey. So he's putting a panel together that he wants me to be on. Yeah, as you know, as you're doing the same thing, the more of this stuff you do, the more people see you doing it, and they want you to be part of it more. I had an interesting, actually, this could tie into last week out of Toronto. I did a Zoom conference. There was about 200 lawyers on. Okay. And they put a panel together talking about the connection, the similarities between athletes and lawyers and the pressures they face, the drugs and alcohol that sometimes come along with that. It was really interesting panel. On the panel was Chris Nyland, the former player, Chris Nyland.
Knuckles.
Yeah. And he was fantastic and very open, talking about how he had his problems. Ultimately got to the point where he was addicted to heroin. He finally was on a bathroom floor someplace in a hotel and finally realized he was crying like a little baby. He realized he had to go get some help. So it was really listening to him. Here's this tough guy, one of the toughest guys that's ever played, tell his story. I think it was pretty impactful for everybody on the show.
Yeah. Wow.
So
I've heard just a little bit of it. Like he was with he had ties to the mob, didn't he? In
his ex-wife, her father or stepfather, I can't remember which it was Whitey Bulger, the famous mob guy. I guess Chris tells the story that at one point, one of the first dates or whatever, I guess to threaten him, Bulger pulled out a pistol and put it to Chris's head. Didn't pull the trigger. Oh, I know. Yeah, Chris was he was great. We didn't really know each other. He played here at the Rangers after I left. So Ron Gresham, everybody tells stories about him. He gave me a call after. We had a good chat. We're gonna have him on our show on Thursday. So, what's interesting, what you're talking about with people talking about it more. There is more and more. You see, people are really getting into it. I get approached a lot more as you do to be part of these panels and to talk more about it. I'll tell you though, I'm still, although I know I do it now, it's still it's not a natural thing for me to ask for help or to say there's something wrong, right? Yeah. It's still I have to push myself to do it, but I almost feel like I need to do it both for myself sometimes, and it hopefully helps other people like you do.
Yeah, you know what? Like sometimes I do it when I have to. I realize when I have to ask for help is because I'm hurting the people around me.
Yeah,
right? That's what it is. So, like if I go into like a bit of a depressive episode or I've got something like that, I'll just withdraw. I'll stop calling people. I'll stop talking to people. I'll get phone calls I won't return. I'll get texts I won't return. Well, you know what it's like when, like, say, Tommy, you text me or you call me or whatever. I don't 3-4 times in a week, and I don't answer you for another week. Right? Makes you feel like what did I do? Like what?
Well, but now I understand what you're going through. Now, right?
Yeah. No. So exactly. So, but the point is that it shouldn't be an excuse for me, right? It should be, hey, I should be like, hey, Tommy, I'm struggling. Hey, and we should talk, right? Or it's time for me to go see somebody rather than just withdraw. And it's not okay to have mental health issues and be, do crappy things and ignore people and all that. I get it and all that. But you still have to be kind. There's supposed to be a kindness there. There still has to be, hey, Tommy, reaching out. Hey, let's chat, or you can text me and say, hey, let's chat, Hershey. What's going on?
Let me ask you about that though. So, all right, let me use the analogy. You break your leg. You can't walk when you break your leg, right? For a short period of time. So if you have a mental health issue and it stops you from calling people back or texting back.
Yeah.
Is that wrong?
Well, it's not that it's wrong. It's just that it doesn't help, right? It doesn't help because it doesn't help me because I've allowed myself to fall into that hole. Sometimes you need 24 hours to recharge, right? Like we all do. Sometimes we need, but if it's taken 2-3 days, well, hey, you need something to get yourself to pull yourself out of it. I know when I withdraw and I disconnect from people, it's actually after a certain amount of time, it's actually hurting me because now I'm missing out on things. I'm missing out on life. I'm missing out on work things. I'm starting to people around me are starting to wonder what's going on. Whereas it doesn't have to be reaching out. It could be reaching out to your therapist. It could be reaching out to another friend. Just stay connected. But on the flip side of that, Tommy, is that same thing. Is I have friends that'll check in with me. If they haven't heard from me in 2-3 days, they'll be like, or even, you and I might go a couple of weeks without talking. You'll be like, hey, you okay, Hershey? Like we haven't chatted in a while. Like you just check in with each other, right? And that's the stuff. And no, it's not wrong, but there's a point where it becomes detrimental to your life and other people. And again, if someone texts you and doesn't call you and you haven't called them in a week and they're trying to get a hold of you, well, then they feel like they've done something wrong. I'm not out here to make somebody else feel bad, right? So communication is the key to everything. I've learned that even in relationships, when I'm struggling, Tommy, it's I need to let my partner know because they can feel like it's their fault. Right. When I go quiet or silent, like when you're in a relationship and your partner goes quiet or silent, you're like, did I say something? Did I do something? So you can make others around you feel bad just by not communicating with them. Hey, it's not you, it's me. And Tommy, I've had that speech a lot of times. That hey, it's not you, it's me. Right? All the time. The breakup talk.
Breakup talk. You're a great guy. You're a great guy. It's me.
You're a really good guy. It's not you. It's me. I'm just in a different place right now. Yeah. No. Why don't they just say, hey, no, it is you. You know, it is. You are the problem. Like, just be honest.
So, what triggers this for you when you go into like depression or whatever?
Can be anything. It's not, doesn't have to be a trigger. I can just, so when there's situational depression, like, your dog dies or your cat or whatever, I mean, you get upset, you get sad, right? Things happen. But for someone like me who struggles with depression, anxiety, I can just fall into it. Like my brain will just start to fall kind of slowly into it. So I got to recognize when I start to fall into it. And, just make sure I take care of me, let people around me know, hey, I'm feeling a little bit depressed these couple of days, right? And I automatically, you don't have to tell everybody, right? But the people that are closest to you, so they know what's going on and they can help you. So I usually it's kind of almost just batten down the hatches, wait for the storm to pass. And it always passes. It does.
So have you been diagnosed? Have you been diagnosed with depression?
Oh, yeah. I mean, obsessive compulsive disorder, ADD. It's not that you get diagnosed particularly with depression or anxiety. There's never really one. You don't just get diagnosed with OCD and that's it, right? Like there's things that come with it, anxiety, some depression. So it's kind of like wrapped in one package. So it doesn't mean that, it can be a formal diagnosis, but I know I suffer from anxiety, depression, which fuels into OCD or, something like that. But I know when it's coming and I can feel it coming. And then if something crappy does happen in my life, I can tend to fall into it. But I know not to fall down into that hole so deep I can't get out, right? Like, Tommy, I'm on medication, and I talk about medication in my talks. Medication is a massive stigma on medication. And it's unfortunate because I wouldn't be here today without medication. I wouldn't be. My brain needs it, right? People take it for cancer, people take it for diabetes. I didn't ask God or the universe or whatever you want for mental illness. I didn't ask for it. I didn't say, hey, give me this, please, I want one. No more than someone gets, for cancer. No one asks for cancer or anything. So why am I stigmatized because my brain doesn't produce enough of a chemical or whatever it is that I need to take medication? Our brains, we don't even understand 80% of what our brains functions do. That's how complicated it is. But yet we stigmatize people for taking medications when their brains need help, but we don't stigmatize them for when their heart needs help, or we don't stigmatize people for when their liver needs help or their kidneys. But if someone's brain needs help, holy crap, you're nuts. What's wrong with you? Don't take medication.
There's obviously there's still people out there, but it's getting better that way, right? I mean,
but medication, there might be a bigger stigma on medication than I will see people struggling so badly. Their quality of life is awful. Like and yet they won't take medication. And Tommy, and I'm all for like having a drink or two a day or what like whatever you want. I'm not, whatever you are, I don't judge. But I have friends that will go get hammered every night, and I'll see them, they're drunk, or they'll smoke weed or whatever, or they'll do drugs or whatever. They're struggling, they're covering it, they're self-medicating. Yet I'll be like, hey, go to a therapist, go to a doctor, a psychiatrist, get on some meds. You'll start working through it. They'll be like, no way, man. I don't want to touch that stuff.
Yeah.
Excuse my language, but they're fucking hammered every night, or they're doing drugs, or they're, and I'm like, but you won't take this medication because why? Right? It makes no sense to me. You're self-medicating with alcohol and drugs. So to me, there's a stigma because they don't want someone to know, hey, it's okay to drink, right? No one's going to judge you. Actually, people will probably, hey, man, you want to go for a pint, right? But whereas a medication for your brain, people will be like, yo, you must be crazy. What are you taking medicine? And that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
I guess we are pretty judgmental as a society, right? I mean, like I see it now. Like I've learned, how it was back when we played. I mean, the drinking beer was after practice, after games, in the bus.
Oh yeah.
And I just thought, well, that's the way we did play in the National Hockey League, thinking that everybody kind of admired me because I would drink beer all day long and then go work my tail off the next day at practice or game, whatever it was. Now I realize I see it differently now. So I don't drink in public at all because I see where people will be drinking with, say, one of my former teammates. And then they'll come over to me and they go, oh, that guy's a drunk, So they're judging him, but they want to sit there and drink with him. But then they're judging him based on what they're seeing.
All the time. But you know what? I got to be honest. I did look forward to those lunches after practice.
Oh God, yes. That was one of the people ask all the time, do you miss playing? And
no.
But miss being with the boys and drinking beer after practice or after a game. Oh,
it was just so much fun. But I mean, yeah, but remember, you'd see guys that were on your team they'd be drinking, like they were drunk every day, and you'd be just it's just them. As long as they show up to play, right? But they were drinking for a reason, right? And it was like we just thought, oh, okay, well, yeah, and we glorify it, and it just, we know better now, anyways.
Yeah. So when you say they're drinking for a reason, do you not think it's I can try to think back to myself. I was one of those guys. I was there. I was the assistant captain. I was the guy that everybody came to go have a beer with. I was in LA. Bruce McNall, the owner, would give me a couple $1,000s of cash to take the guys out for drinks after the game. I was that guy. So do you think I was? I mean, I know you can't generalize, but
I don't think you would be, because I mean that was part of your DNA. I mean, but were you bombed till 2 a.m. every night? Starfish in your bed and your clothes, right?
Yeah, that was the thing. Yeah,
doing it again? No, probably not. Right? Like there's different levels of alcoholism and all that, and I'm not qualified enough on your show to describe what. I don't even know really enough myself. All I know is that if you're drinking because you're terrified of fighting the next guy the next day, the next night, right? The NHL works. You got to fight Knuckles Nyland.
Yeah.
So you're going to get bombed the night before, so you don't have to think about it, and then bombed again the next. If you're drinking to cover up something that is, whatever, something that's bothering you, then it's a problem. If you're out with your buddies, like I don't know. You know what? I'm not qualified to say what is and what isn't. So if you're listening, please don't listen to me as to what is and what isn't.
Well, that is a good point, right? There's, I mean, both Corey and I have a lot of people coming to us now, seeking out help. And we're really not qualified to do that. There are professionals. There's lots of places. There's suicide hotlines and all that to go to. We'd love to steer you in the right direction and help you as much as we can, but we understand that we're not qualified to help people. And we do have a lot of people contact us one way or the other. But you just quickly go over your story when you're playing. You were playing here with the Rangers when you first noticed there were some issues, correct?
Yeah, no, I was playing with the Rangers. Was on that run to the Stanley Cup there, right? When and I'll give you the very quick Coles notes here, but it was something in my brain I would just say kind of broke, like depression, anxiety sneak up on you. But I was later diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder, but there were just these horrific, horrible thoughts that I didn't want there, and I didn't know why they were there. And I'll give you the best way I can describe OCD, Tommy. So you're on a 2-lane road, right? Cars coming this way, you're going this way. And we've all had that silly thought where we're driving and it's like, well, what if I just turn the wheel into the other lane, right? And you go, well, that was a stupid thought. It's just an impulse thought. We have a million thoughts a day. Right. You shouldn't even have to pay attention. And you go, that's stupid. And you go back, normal brain will go on with their day. They won't even think about it. My brain would go home and go, why did I have that thought? Why was that thought in my head? Why is that something that I want to do? Is that something that, did I want to hurt people? Did I want to, I don't want to ever hurt anybody. I'd never, ever do that or hurt myself or whatever. And it would just be the spin on and on and on. It'd be a fight and your brain be telling you, yes, you want to do that. And it's like, there's an epic battle between a rational and irrational side of your brain. And then, so what my rational brain would be like, I just stop driving. I'd be like, okay, not driving my car ever again. And then that would be it. But it just turn and swirl 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And like I say, it's like a broken record player. It just never stops hammering you. The anxiety and the it's like getting hit with a taser gun every time you have that. And that's the easiest, simplest way I can explain OCD. There's way more. People used to think that it's just hand washers. They got clean hands.
Yeah, I can do it. It's always you have to have something perfectly in order or all that kind of stuff. Huh?
I did everything in my head. What it is it's a terrible thought that we all have. So there's a terrible thought. There's an anxiety that comes with it. And then there's a compulsion to try to get rid of that thought. So what people do is the terrible thought would be, I've got something on my hands that, I could touch and then it could somebody else getting sick. Right. So then they'll go and they'll wash their hands. Okay, they feel better for about 30 seconds and they go touch the door. And then it's like, oh crap. And it's the constant battle. And I know it sounds odd because it is, and it's why a lot of people don't go get help. But again, I didn't ask for that. I don't know why it happened, but there's treatment, there's therapy available. But it's not just the hand washers and the organizers that are cute. It's all of that stuff. And it's not cute. Most of my friends that have obsessive compulsive disorder have at some point tried to take their life, and some have been successful, and that's, so no, it's not, that's why when people say, oh, I'm so OCD with because my place is clean. No, you're fucking not. All right. You're not. So,
did you always have this, Corey?
I don't know, but OCD it's just kind of like I can tell you the day where I was, everything. So I had, mine was kind of, I'll tell you. So back in the 90s, HIV was a big thing, right? Nice. So, and I was in locker rooms with guys who'd be cut and all that stuff. So, my brain was just like, you touch something in the locker room. Did it have blood on it? Does that mean you have HIV now? And then I touch my kids. I'll go hug my kids. And it doesn't matter how the explanation comes, because you're not going to give HIV to somebody that way by hugging them. But my brain would tell me it would. And, and then the fight would be on. So that's kind of the best way I can describe it. And no, it wasn't like that. We just, like I said, it was just one day. It just kind of the switch flipped on me. So anyway, so I spent 3 years after that just trying to hide it, anxiety attacks, trying to play in the National Hockey League. When finally I lost about 30 pounds when I was in Vancouver. I dropped to 145 pounds trying to play in the NHL. And like I said, these are the Coles notes. And I hid from everybody. I went from being, on the NHL all-rookie team in Vancouver to the next year, I couldn't even play in the league, Tommy, because I started having panic attacks. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't. It was just, it brought me to my knees. And that's the point of getting things diagnosed and fixed right away. But back then there was a stigma. So I didn't want to tell anybody, and I just tried to live with it. And I did make an attempt on my own life at one point. And then, decided that I was just going to try and live with it. And it's like trying to live with a broken leg. Like, you go get it fixed. But because it was our brains back then, it was stigmatized, and you didn't want anyone to think you were crazy. So where was I going to go? So I just struggled in my own skin for 3 years. And then I had a choice. I could either go get help, or I could try and kill myself again. And my option, honestly, Tommy, was, this is what I thought. Okay, I'm going to go talk to a trainer. I'm going to ask. I'm going to finally come out with all this shit, because if I don't, I'm going to die anyways, because this is going to kill me. I've dropped 30 pounds. And if it doesn't work out and there's no help, well, then I can kill myself anyways. That was the rational thinking of my brain, which was, that's where my brain was at. I went and I spoke to a trainer, and there's a lot more that goes with it. My book's coming out in October, November-ish, but we can.
What's the name of your book? What's the name of your book?
It's still to be determined, but right now it's called The Save of My Life, and it'll come out. But I reached out to a trainer, and they set me on the path of I got diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder, got on medication. And now I do actually quite well. But that day I reached out, Tommy, I threw away my NHL career, but I also saved my own life that day.
Yeah. What was the reaction from the trainer and anybody else that you spoke to at that time?
They were quite surprised, quite shocked, right? But kind of, because no one had really ever gone. They didn't really ever see anything. But they're like, hey, we're going to get you the help. We're gonna do this. It was more my teammates that it was hard to, because they saw it happen, right? Like they saw me in 30
Were they supportive? Did they know how to handle things?
I'd say about a third were indifferent, and I'd say a third tried to get me traded. But most at that point thought I was just a bad team guy, because what happens is now when you're sick like that, you're late for meetings, you're late for practices. You're always trying to spend as little time in front of the guys as possible, so they don't know, so they don't see. Plus, I was so busy ruminating on things, I'd lose track of time. Like I would be, I would be late for stuff. So that's the other side.
That's an interrupt you there, but I learned a really good lesson years ago when I got involved with the Sheldon Kennedy case. And I knew Sheldon in Detroit, Dallas Drake as a client playing with the Red Wings, and I'd go have lunch with Sheldon. Great kid, fantastic kid. And he was always getting in trouble. Like he's motorcycle accidents, drugs and alcohol and everything. And I was thinking to myself, what is wrong with this guy? He's such a good kid. And then when he finally called me and told me that he'd been abused by Graham James, it just kind of like it at that moment kind of taught me a lesson, and I've learned it over and over now. You can't judge people, right? I mean, if something's going on, like in your case, it's easier to say now, obviously, because of what we know, but there's a reason for why you're doing it. You're a good person. And miss some meetings, I think, right? So,
yeah, well, I mean, I think the statistic is that 75% of our inmates have mental health issues. Well, right. So it's like when somebody's doing something or really struggling, that's what I mean by you just don't know. Like you looked at Sheldon and you were like, why can't he get it together? Like, man, this guy's a mess, right? Oh, he's just I guess he's just a bad guy. Stay away from him, right? Yeah. I'll tell you a story. So I was in Detroit, my first NHL game. We tied 2-2 in Detroit. Went out to the bar afterwards, have a few drinks. Sheldon Kennedy was standing at the end of the bar. He was there. He had a bunch of people around him, and a couple of my teammates. I was like, because I'd known Sheldon, Western Hockey League, everybody knew who it was. And one of the guys were kind of looked and said, "Hey, yeah, that's Sheldon Kennedy. Yeah, stay away from him. He's bad news."
Yeah,
totally. And then I'd be like, "Oh, okay." And then to find out later that he was sexually abused, like really, like how bad did I feel for that moment, right? But that's what people think. All of a sudden, you're a bad person, but
we don't know what's going on, and that it's a lesson for everybody. If you see somebody that's like that, just don't jump to the conclusion that they're bad people. Take the time. If you have the opportunity and the strength to do it, take the time to get to know them and see what's going on.
Yeah. Well, and you don't have to excuse bad behavior for mental health and all that, right? Yeah. But it's the fact that we never ever said anything, right? We saw those guys drinking, and you'd see, and you don't, if they're your friend or whatever, you don't ever ask them, right? And or just at least make yourself non-judgmental and open. You don't have to be their best friend or anything. Just be non-judgmental, be open. And if they, most of the time, Tommy, like when we talk, about being non-judgmental, when I talk to people, they probably won't come to me or tell me right away, but maybe 6 months from then they might, right? Yeah. They'll go, "Hey, yeah, I remember you chatting. Hey, this is, can you help me?" Right? But it might not be right away, but at least be non-judgmental and let that person know that it's okay to talk to you.
Yeah. Rocco writes in here, when he was with the Westchester Police Department on the Rangers security detail, he escorted you. Do you remember him?
Yes, I do. Yeah, absolutely.
So at that point, he needed you to help you get out there to stay away from
that. We all did. Yeah, all of us. Yeah, not just me, right? Like everybody. But no, that's cool. That is really cool. That's the stuff that I forget. The little things like that. I remember the lunches. I just forget that stuff. Rye Playland. Remember Rye Playland?
Oh God. Yeah. So I think most people that have watched the show understand, especially back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, part of being in the National Hockey League, and it was interesting to look back at it, was the guys going together, especially after practice for lunch. And it wasn't mandatory, but it was almost mandatory. Like you weren't watching guys. I'll never forget, we told a story. I don't think it might tell a story, but so it was before I got traded, obviously, to watch to LA, and we're in the city someplace after a game. And I think it was Orrin and the Redskins, because we go there all the time. And there's always, all the guys were always drinking beer together after the game. And most people just stop there. Maybe some guys would stay longer. Some guys would go home pretty quickly if they have family, whatever. But two players, Kelly Miller and Mike Ridley, great guys, fantastic players, great teammates and everything, but they're younger guys, came in and ordered a glass of milk the first time they went out with us. And I remember,
I know Rids, I can totally see him.
Okay, right. So I remember our reaction. We were outraged. We were mad at him. It's funny to think back about how the guy orders some milk and we were mad. What is going on? You ordered milk here, Oh, so funny.
Oh, that's hilarious. Just trying to take care of themselves, hey?
Yeah, I know. Sure. Yeah. I remember Robbie Frattori first came to the team. Loved Robbie Frattori. Total respect for him. Robbie would get down on the floor and start stretching. And what's wrong with this guy? He's stretching. There's something wrong with him.
What? Oh, I remember going with Rangers teams that we used to go. I mean, I was in the minors a lot too, but I remember we go. Brian Leach, he was single. We'd go out quite a bit. Paul Broughton, what a funny man he was.
Oh,
he was a funny man. He said, what did he say once? He said, yeah, I lost my credit card or something. And I thought, well, there's no way that the person that found it could spend as much money as my wife can, so they could just have it. That's a funny man. Yeah,
there's some good times back then. Yeah, it was
great. But just so many great stories with the Rangers when I got there.
Definitely.
I think you were in LA by then.
Yeah, I was gone. I was traded in '87. So, when was your first year in the league?
92, 93.
92. Yeah. So I think I was just probably wrapping up my illustrious career. Yeah.
Yeah.
Illustrious. All right. So we got to make sure we need people to vote here. So we go to the Webby Awards, WEBBY Award. Yeah. The name of the podcast is Blindsided. that
Yeah.
Corey does. And he's in the top 5 with a lot of heavy hitters, ESPN and everything such. So if you want to vote for Corey's podcast, that would be greatly appreciated. Again, Blindsided is the name of the podcast, and you go to the Webby Awards online to vote for his podcast. That'd be great. Going to win that. It's, you know what the great thing is too, like you said before. First of all, it's great to win. But the cause that you have going on, the more notoriety you can get to your podcast, the better by winning. So
you know what? That's what's great about this is that it's getting a lot more people to the podcast and listening to, Bubba Watson talking about his depression and panic attacks. Kevin Love, Paul Bissonnette from Spit and Chicklets, he's on there. Yeah. His best friend took his own life when he was 17, and people don't know that, right? So, and the point of that is that, well, someone listening to that might be able to relate and say, hey, I can go get help too if they did that.
Totally. Good. Again, great cause. Blindsided, one more time. Blindsided is the name of the podcast. The Webby Awards. Vote for Corey, and I will put that information on the on my Facebook page as well, so people know where to go to it. So, great job, bud. Good to see you again, brother.
Always good to see you, buddy. Love you. And
I gotta stop you there. So I was bragging about you the other day, and I was telling somebody that for men, especially men that played hockey, to tell another man that you love him is a major thing. And you and I had a conversation one time that you made a conscious decision to tell your friends from now on that you love them, and I've caught up on that too. So, yeah,
you know what? It's like, I mean, I've lost people in my life, and I'm like, Jesus, you go in and tell the people you love that you love them, and there's romantic love and there's friendly love. I mean, yours is friendly for me.
There you go. You know what I've learned too is like to tell the people that are really important in your life. Say, you know what? I'm really glad you're in my life too. Like,
you know what? That's I thank you for saying that. Absolutely. So
I'm glad you're in my life, there, brother.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know if I can say the same, Tommy. All right, buddy.
See ya.